covered a lot this week on Spicer and Company, had a lot of great guests. We talked about the media with Dave Rubin, Derek Hunter, Emily Miller, selectively editing videos. It's really interesting. You want to hear their perspective. We talked about Michael Flynn and the decision that's come down from the Department of Justice revoking its case against him. We talked about it with the President's attorney, Jay Sekulow, and Congressman Jim Jordan of the House Oversight Committee. And then we talked about opening up the country. Senator Rick Scott of Florida wants everyone to buy American. Check out what he has to say on this, along with Congressman Denver Riggleman. And a businessman in Michigan, he's leading a protest of civil disobedience and asking business owners to open up. Check it all out.
Getting the facts, who, what, where, when, and how, and start about being about the reporter's own celebrity. And that's why it was clear to me why the president cut them off, because they want to make scenes for themselves. We've seen that especially with CNN reporters, that this is about them so they can air this drama. And the American people, look, I'm here in Texas. I'm in the heartland. What we care about out here is keeping the elderly and those with underlying health conditions from getting coronavirus and opening our economy. We're 1 week into reopening. This is a good thing. No one cares about the drama that's going on in the White House press briefing room.
Well,
except for the White House press.
So, Derek, here's the interesting thing. One, I make mistakes. I assume you and Heidi and Lindsay, we all do. It's one thing to make a mistake. It's another thing to blatantly skew what they did and then cover it up, acting like nothing happened. The tweet that they sent out got about 3,000 likes, meaning this apology. I think they get a couple million people that watch the show. So it's amazing, Derek, when they do something like this, it's called inadvertent and missed. If this was you or I that did something like this, they would talk about us being liars.
Well, there's really two options here. Chuck Todd is wildly incurious about the news and didn't wonder what the Attorney General said following the remarks that they showed, and nobody bothered to show him. Or he knew and it didn't help his narrative, so he wasn't interested in it. So either one of those options isn't particularly good, but in the idea of the tweet getting such little play, it was a reply tweet. It didn't even warrant a standalone tweet from Meet the Press. Therefore, the only people whose timeline it showed up in are the people who follow both Meet the Press, which has a sizable 600,000 plus following, and the DOJ spokeswoman, who only has about 34,000 followers. So it's a very small audience that they broadcast their pseudo apology to in the first place. They could have retweeted her and added commentary with their pseudo apology. They chose not to do that. They took the more indirect route so they could check the box, say we apologized. Meanwhile, Chuck Todd has not said anything on Twitter or on television anywhere whatsoever. We don't even know if he's aware of it.
I mean, look, Stelter has sort of become the meme of the internet when it comes to exposing what sort of fake corporate news is. Your point about walking and chewing gum, that's it. It's like, how does he get to decide what we're supposed to care about and when we're supposed to care about it? Let's not forget that, pretty much everyone online on Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else knew about the Tara Reade story for at least 3 weeks while CNN didn't touch it. So it's like, well, where were you on that, Brian? So, I mean, this is consistently what they do. Most of us want a good news media. We want that. Every time I have to tweet, like with what Chuck Todd did yesterday on Meet the Press, editing what Barr said, it's like every time I have to expose that, I'm like, I just wish I didn't have to do this again, because I wish you guys would do your job. Do your job, and I'll find some other stuff to talk about, But they seem incapable of doing it. And the line I always use on this is that it's journalists, and I have to use air quotes there, it's journalists who are destroying journalism.
And mocked the vice president for supposedly carrying empty boxes. But guess what? The vice president had made a joke about the boxes being empty, which was obvious to anyone who had actually watched the entire 29-minute video. So Kimmel then tweeted this apology, if you want to call it that. Quote, "It would appear the vice president was joking about carrying empty boxes for a staged publicity stunt. The full video reveals he was carrying full boxes for a publicity stunt. My apologies. I know how dearly this administration values truth." A lot of folks were angry and didn't buy his apology. Some said a Twitter apology was not good enough, demanding he do an on-air apology, which he did. Kimmel says he and his family received death threats, so he addressed it on air. Take a listen.
Okay, you know what? It was my mistake. I do apologize to the vice president, again, for spreading misinformation about him. Spreading misinformation is their thing, and I stepped on their toes.
You know, Sean, a lot of times comedians are given a lot of slack, but do you think that he took it too far?
In this case, yes. We all make mistakes, and when we do, we should apologize, but make it a real apology. And I think doing a faux apology does a disservice to the whole thing. The vice president did the right thing. He was out there bringing protective equipment to this area senior home to make sure that they had it, and he should be applauded for that. Jimmy can be funny. I've seen it. He's a funny guy, but he should stick to being funny. More humor, less politics. And if you don't like it, you should change the channel or turn it off. Heck, tweet at him for all I care. But here's the thing. Don't threaten him, don't threaten his kids, and don't threaten his family. Violence and threats of violence are never acceptable, ever. We have to stop this third grade mentality that he started it, you did it first. The pettiness just needs to stop. During this time that we're all being challenged and stressed out, we need humor. We need to laugh. It's been stressful for so many people, and a good laugh can be really helpful. Everything doesn't have to be about politics, but when it is about politics, it doesn't need to always be personal, and it never, never needs to resort to violence or threats of violence. Jay, welcome.
Hey, Sean, good to be with you.
All right. Admittedly, I'm not a lawyer. I've learned everything I know from watching television. But, so here's what I don't get. Flynn pleads guilty through his own admission and others because they were bleeding the guy dry financially. They pressured his son. They threatened him with a longer sentence, and he said, fine, I'll plead guilty. So he pleads guilty. More information comes out that shows that he probably wasn't guilty. People set him up, et cetera, et cetera. He then makes a plea to the court that says, I want to withdraw my guilty plea because of all this information that's come out. Now the court's saying, well, I know the Department of Justice is going to do this, but now we're going to charge you with perjury for lying to us that you were guilty. Is that, I mean, am I reading this wrong?
No, I mean, you are reading it correctly. So what happened was...
Go to law school.
Yeah, you can go. Or you don't even have to. Maybe just practice law. So here's what happened. This is the kind of the irony of the whole thing, is that the prosecutors, when the Attorney General appointed the U.S. Attorney to evaluate the entire Flynn matter, so he took a fresh look at the entire Flynn case. He found in the course of doing this evidence, documents that are called exculpatory, meaning it provides evidence that the person being here, General Flynn, was not guilty. That exculpatory evidence, including the fact that the FBI had closed its investigation of General Flynn in the field office, saying there was no violations of law, was never turned over to the president's, to the General Flynn's lawyer. Now, here's what the irony is. I mean, of all the ironies. So then General Flynn makes a motion to withdraw his plea. Right. Pretty common, happens in criminal cases from time to time. The Department of Justice says, yes, we agree he should be able to withdraw the plea because of this newly discovered evidence and some issues that took place during the course of the prosecution. No prosecution should go forward. The order should have been signed by Judge Sullivan. But what does he do instead? He appoints a retired judge who's basic as a, quote, friend of the court, amicus curiae, but really is like a special prosecutor. I mean, here we go again.
Well, it's very concerning because that same day, January 12, 2017, that's also the day that David Ignatius writes his piece on this issue. So, was there any connection there? Is that just coincidence? We don't know. The other thing that's a concern is 29 people between the election day and inauguration day, during the transition time between the two administrations, 29 people are unmasking names of U.S. citizens. In an intelligence product, you're supposed to redact the names of American citizens, but 29 people were wanting to unmask this and find out information about General Flynn. That's scary, and it's scary who they are. You got the president's chief of staff, the president's vice president. You got people as close to President Obama as there can possibly be among that list of 29 people, and a host of others in that list of 29 people. Very concerning, and we should have a chance to talk to these people and ask them, why in the heck were you doing this, particularly in this time frame?
Sean, first off, we have to start asking our retailers where things are made, and then we have to do everything we can to buy American. And for sure, don't buy anything from communist China. Think about communist China. They steal our jobs, steal our technology. They put people in prison for their religion. They try to take away the basic rights of Hong Kong citizens. And now they were not transparent, and Americans died, and a lot of people lost their jobs. Buy American products. Now, I have a bill that would require companies like Amazon to disclose where things are made so you can make a decision. I'm hoping companies like Walmart will go back to what Sam Walton used to do, and he would promote American products. Because I believe Americans are fed up with communist China like I am, and will hold them accountable, and also help American workers by buying American.
We're in phase one. I'm opening one of my businesses right now, and we can't even find people to work. I think there's we're not coming back to work because we're making more money right now, not coming back based on the state of emergency that we have right now in Virginia till June 10th. So, Sean, there's things like that are happening across the board. And the fact that I own a small business and the fact that I do these things gives me a ground level view of what's happening. And it's a little bit scary what's going on in the 5th District. And by the way, Sean, you said it's big. It's 10,000 square miles. So it's bigger than New Jersey. So I have everywhere from the Northern Virginia suburbs, to the biggest dairy farms in the entire district. So it's an incredible challenge for Virginia.
Right. Let me ask you this. You brought this up. Are people not coming back to work because they're worried about their own safety and health? Or are they not coming back to work because they're getting paid more money not to work right now?
Well, it's both. We've had a couple health and safety. We had a couple employees, Sean, and you know what I do? We have a lot of people that come through our establishments in Virginia and Pennsylvania that we're worried about health. We do employ some people over 60. The other individuals said simply, why would I come right now? I'm making more money. I don't want to give up those benefits. And that was one of the things that we would have to do in this bill from Pelosi is we'd have to compete with unemployment benefits to get workers to come to work. And that was one of my 10 reasons that I had that you mentioned at the beginning. And that was why I cannot vote for bills like this where it doesn't allow small businesses the flexibility to hire because they're competing with unemployment benefits. It's almost an impossible situation for small business.
Usually not 10 or more people standing on a roof. So I do think it's a little odd that they're banning a company like yours from going up and doing whatever you guys want to do. But when you ask people next week on May 21st to go back to work, are you requiring all of your employees to go back to work?
No, I don't require anybody to do anything. We live in the United States last time I checked. If you're not comfortable coming back and joining society again, then that's your prerogative. You can stay home and put your mask on. But as far as the rest of us that have done the math and taken a look at the numbers and assessed the risks and says, this is a risk I'm willing to take because I find it infinitesimally small, let's go back to work. Right. We don't need a governor or a government to tell us what to do. We frankly know better. And I just was listening earlier on the legal action. Unfortunately, this state needs life support. And
you seem to be putting up billboards, doing this all fairly peacefully. What do you say to those people who are, I asked, Congressman, just before you on this, what do you say to the people who are going to Lansing and marching on the State House with guns?
Well, I think, and I would agree with his look at it. It's a distraction, but I look at it and it actually brings fear to me. And it's because, that's the next step. And that's unfortunate. So I look at it and let's just do everything peaceably. Let's keep the sanity here. Let's get back to work, Michigan. That's what it's about. Michigan, the United States, let's just get back to work. We can sort the mess out when we're done. But I promise you, we have a $13 billion state economy. We've lost $3 billion already. You drop another $2 billion out of that, and the poverty that's going to be created by that is going to create a whole lot more carnage and death than COVID ever can.
Right. Thanks for watching. Set your DVR every night, 6 and 9 p.m. on Newsmax.